Good morning, it's Tuesday the 5th of July. Here's what's making news on 10 News First Breakfast. The flood emergency continues. Tens of thousands forced to leave their homes as torrential rain and damaging winds lash Greater Sydney. Homeowners warned to brace for more pain as further rate hikes loom. Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers is live. Bracing for another wave, a fourth COVID vaccine on the cards as case numbers rise. And 6 dead and more than 24 injured as 4th of July celebrations turn deadly in suburban Chicago.
This is 10 News First with Lachlan Kennedy.
Good morning. Tens of thousands of Sydney-siders have endured another anxious night as the flooding emergency is still far from over. Torrential rain continues to fall across the city as waters rise to dangerous levels, inundating homes. Our reporter Samara Gardner joins us now live from Windsor in Sydney's northwest. Samara, there are 97 evacuation orders currently in place.
Lachlan, that's right. About 45,000 residents have been forced from their homes, with floodwaters continuing to rise across Greater Sydney. Now, that rainfall is expected to continue to fall for the next 6 to 12 hours. Obviously, that's not great news for anyone who is being impacted by this disaster. Now, disaster relief has been announced by the state and federal government for 27 local government areas. However, looking to recovery is still a long way off for these communities. Here in Windsor, where we are at the moment, the flood level is already above what it was at the March 2022 event, and it continues to rise. So relief for these residents here is still a long way off.
Samara Gardner live in Windsor. Get out of that rain. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is on his way back to Australia to visit flood-affected areas after a week of official engagements across Europe. The PM is expected to touch down later tonight and will visit the Hawkesbury region in Sydney's northwest by Thursday. The past week has included the NATO Leaders Summit in Spain, a relationship-mending meeting with the French President, and a high-security trip to Ukraine. Mr Albanese has tweeted he has been briefed on the flooding situation by the New South Wales Premier. Strong winds and seas of up to 11 metres are hampering efforts to secure a stricken bulk carrier off the coast of southern Sydney. A third tugboat has been sent to help the crew of the cargo ship Portland Bay, which has lost power. The operation began yesterday afternoon. The aim was to try and pull the 170-metre carrier out to calmer seas so repairs could be undertaken. But tow lines broke in extreme weather conditions last night and a call was made to suspend the operation. The Portland Bay is now anchored just 1.2 nautical miles off from shore, where it will likely remain until tomorrow, when it's hoped it can be safely towed into Port Botany for repairs to be undertaken. Mortgage holders are bracing for more interest rate pain as the Reserve Bank meets to consider hiking the national cash rate for the third month in a row. 10 News First reporter Chloe Burris joins us live from Canberra this morning. Chloe, good morning. What are we expecting from the RBA today?
Good morning. It's looking like it'll be a significant jump this afternoon as the Reserve Bank of Australia tries to tackle the soaring rate of inflation. So currently the official cash rate is 0.85% and economists are all predicting that will lift by 50 basis points, taking it to 1.35%, and that would add hundreds of dollars to mortgage repayments. And it is going to hurt borrowers who are already dealing with higher prices for petrol, power and groceries. Now, we are being warned today that the price of veggies could stay high for weeks because of the devastating floods in New South Wales, which are actually impacting agricultural regions. There are warnings today that up to $1 billion worth of produce could be wiped out.
Wow, the hip pocket pain just keeps on coming. Chloe Burris in Canberra this morning. Thanks for your time. Moving overseas now, and at least 6 people have been killed and 24 are in hospital after a mass shooting at a suburban 4th of July parade in Chicago. As Dania Bacchus reports from the US, the gunman is still at large.
Police in Highland Park, Illinois, say a gunman started shooting into a 4th of July parade from a rooftop in the downtown area.
On a day that we came together to celebrate community and freedom. We're instead mourning the tragic loss of life and struggling with the terror that was brought upon us.
Officials say shots started ringing out about 10 minutes after the parade started. At first, the crowd thought the noise was associated with the parade. Then they ran from the scene, leaving their belongings behind. Police are searching for the gunman.
The suspect is currently described as a male white, approximately 18 to 20 years old, with longer black hair, a small build, and wearing a white or blue t-shirt.
So far, police have recovered a rifle. This man was along the parade route.
You know, it's just get to a safe place, like get behind a brick pillar or something like that, which I did, and just to catch my breath.
Our community was terrorized by an act of violence that has shaken us to our core.
Officers are going door to door, urging people to shelter in place until the gunman is found. Several 4th of July events in nearby communities have been cancelled.
Daniel Bacchus with that report. Australia's peak advisory group for immunisation is considering whether to roll out a 4th COVID-19 vaccine. ATAGI is meeting today following a dire warning about a possible new wave of the virus. Over the past month, new COVID infections have plateaued at around 30,000 each day across the nation. But health experts are warning 2 new variants of COVID, combined with the bad flu season, could make matters worse. Currently, only those aged over 65 and the immunocompromised can receive a second booster shot. French President Emmanuel Macron is urging his ministers to hang in there as he tries to secure a majority government. The French leader has reshuffled his cabinet in a bid to reset and gain a workable parliament. It follows his party's narrow election win in June, where they lost their absolute majority in the General Assembly. No opponents have so far joined his camp, and until that changes, it will be an uphill battle to pass legislation, with each bill requiring support from the crossbench. Aussie tennis player Nick Kyrgios is into the quarter-finals at Wimbledon. The world number 40 overcame a shoulder injury to take the third-set tiebreaker against American Brandon Nakashima. The 27-year-old says he intends to defy his critics, who have accused him of poor sportsmanship and bullying.
Honestly, I don't care. I just smile. It's so funny. I joke around with my team about it so much. It's hilarious. I almost just wake up and read things and I just laugh. And I never forget things. The people say, whether it was 3-4 years ago, things that just stick with me. I have a massive chip on my shoulder and I just love, I sit here now in quarterfinals Wimbledon again, and I just know there's so many people that are so upset.
You do consume it all though? You
I don't consume it all. I just it's a good feeling.
Kyrgios will face world number 43 Christian Garin, who beat our top-ranked player Alex de Minaur, while there was a good win also for Aussie Aya Tomljanovic, who's into the quarterfinals for the 2nd year in a row. A good night of tennis, a very late night though if you do work in Brekkie TV. Still to come this morning on 10 News First Breakfast. Mortgage holders brace for more pain as another interest rate rise looms. We'll speak with the Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers next. And scam alert, the sophisticated fraudsters robbing Australians of billions of dollars. Welcome back. Well, ask any economist, it's pretty much a done deal. The Reserve Bank will lift the cash rate again today, and it most likely won't be for the last time this year either. It's bad news for mortgage holders, but a welcome change for self-funded retirees. Now, joining us from Canberra is the Federal Treasurer, Jim Chalmers. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Before we get to the issue of inflation and interest rates, I just want to quickly go to the flooding emergency. It's now been declared a natural disaster, so that means federal funds will now start flowing to those people who are affected?
They will, Lachlan, and we've made that clear. We've been working really closely with the Perrottet government in New South Wales to make sure that people in those flood-affected areas get the help that they desperately need. Our message to everybody who's underwater in those communities is that we will support you, we will be there for you, we will make sure that you get the help that you need to get through what will be an incredibly difficult time.
And is it your understanding the Prime Minister will get there pretty quickly after he lands home from Europe?
It is. He will be home tonight. My expectation at this stage is that he will join Premier Perrottet, I think, on Thursday in some of the flood-affected areas. We want to make sure that we have a real-time understanding of this disaster as it unfolds. Anthony Albanese has been working closely with Murray Watt, our Minister. We've been working closely with the state government and other authorities really around the clock to make sure that we understand this natural disaster, that the help is getting where it is desperately needed. And I think when the weather conditions are at their most difficult, as they are now in parts of Australia, we see the absolute best of Australians. And the federal government, the Albanese government, wants to make sure that we are working with everybody to ensure that people who are already doing it tough enough, that we are there for them and we are there to support them.
Yeah, and that has been a point echoed by the New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet. OK, let's get to the Reserve Bank meeting today. It's almost certain the cash rate will go up. Most economists predicting a rise of 50 basis points. If so, that would be the same as last month, which you described as a difficult day for homeowners. How many more difficult days do you foresee on the horizon?
Well, first of all, you're right that it is the pretty much universal expectation that interest rates will go up again and that won't be the end of it this year. And so unfortunately, for a lot of Australian families who are already doing it tough enough with the skyrocketing costs of groceries and petrol and electricity and other essentials, they will need to find even more room in already stretched household budgets in order to service the mortgage. And so, you know, for every 0.5% that interest rates go up on an average mortgage, it's about $90 a month. On a $500,000 mortgage, about $137 a month. And so those aren't small amounts of money. And so today's news, I think, will be really difficult news, really tough news for a lot of people around Australia who are already doing it tough enough.
It is a bit of a delicate balancing act here for the RBA, isn't it? I mean, how concerned are you that potentially they might go too hard and tip us into a recession?
Well, look, I try not to get into any of those kind of predictions. I don't expect, for example, that outcome that you've described. But obviously they do need to strike a difficult balance because we've got a whole series of things happening at once. We've got high and rising inflation and the rising interest rates that come with it. We've got falling real wages. We've got natural disasters. And all of those issues combined with issues that are happening around the world, challenges in the global community as well, are putting a lot of pressure on people. And so the Reserve Bank, when they meet each month, needs to weigh all of that up. Clearly, they're very focused on this inflation problem we've got, which will get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. And so this is the tough medicine that they are prescribing to the Australian economy. How that unfolds for the rest of the year remains to be seen. I won't preempt future decisions of the Reserve Bank Board, but I think most Australians understand we are in for some months of difficulty. We can get to a better place on the other side of this combination of economic challenges, but first we need to do our best to navigate them together.
One of those pressures you mentioned are petrol prices. You have previously warned that motorists should prepare for fuel prices to rise because the federal government's cut to the fuel excise will probably end in September. So that'll see prices go back up by about 22 cents. I mean, a lot of people will be asking, why can't that excise be extended considering there is so much household budget pain at the moment?
Yeah, I do understand that, Lachlan. I mean, I obviously get a lot of feedback about that. What we tried to do is be upfront with people. The petrol price support that was in the last budget of the last government was designed to end in September, would cost some billions of dollars to extend. And so we've tried to be honest about our capacity to do some of these things. We've inherited a budget which is heaving with $1 trillion in Liberal Party debt, and so our ability to provide these kind of payments is constrained, and we don't want to pretend otherwise. You know, one of our challenges, in addition to inflation and rising interest rates and falling real wages, all of these important challenges in the economy, are also some pretty significant challenges in the budget. And so our commitment to your viewers is to do our best to make the right decisions to make our budget and our economy as resilient as the Australian people have proven to be again and again. And part of that is about being upfront with people about what's possible and what might not be possible.
Honesty is the best policy, as they say. Treasurer Jim Chalmers, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Lachlan.
A potentially life-saving drug for heart attack and stroke patients that uses the poisonous venom from funnel web spiders is one step closer to reality now. After more than 5 years of research, scientists at the University of Queensland say the medicine is now ready for human trials.
You wouldn't hear too many people saying this.
This is a Kagari funnel web.
Yeah, it's my favourite spider.
But there's a pretty good reason why.
Oh, look at that. Oh, she had to go that time.
The deadly venom from the Kagari or Fraser Island funnel web is being turned around into something life-saving. University of Queensland researchers are using it to develop a new drug, and now, thanks to a $23 million investment, it's ready for human trials.
When a heart attack or a stroke occurs, this is caused by the lack of blood flow to the organ. And so, as a consequence, billions of cells will die. This drug is intended to stop that cell death response from happening in the first place.
It's all thanks to a molecule found in the spider's venom.
And so a drug like this has potential to really transform clinical care.
There's currently no medication to prevent heart attack damage, and with strokes it can only be taken up to 4 hours after the incident. But with this drug, it doubles that crucial window.
So those people, for example, that might live in a regional area and take a long time to get to the hospital would benefit even if they got there 8 hours later.
And it's important, as around 15 million people die from heart attack and stroke every year.
This is one of the world's biggest killers, and this is a multi-billion-dollar market. So, there is a really big patient need for new treatment.
Amanda Hart for 10 News First.
It's just amazing work. Stay with us after the break. We've got the weather forecast for the rest of your Tuesday. Back to one of our top stories now, that shooting in Chicago that has left 6 people dead. Police there have now identified 22-year-old Robert E. Crimo as a suspect. They caution she's to be considered armed and dangerous. They say they will not be answering questions yet about how they identified Crimo, but there you go. Police do have a suspect in that mass shooting at the 4th of July parade in Chicago overnight. Back home, we are being urged to be on alert for scammers after a record number of Australians were swindled last year. An eye-watering $2 billion was lost to scams in 2021, but the consumer watchdog fears many people aren't reporting their losses and the real total might be much higher than that. Investment scams left people the most shortchanged, making up more than $700 million worth of losses. The regulator says people aged over 65 reported the highest number of losses, while those with disabilities doubled and those from culturally and linguistic diverse backgrounds experienced an 88% increase in their losses to scammers. OK, let's have a look at your weather forecast for this Tuesday. Starting in Queensland, cloudy with a medium chance of showers about the southern interior today. 14 degrees, a possible shower in Rockhampton, and up to 20 mils of rain in Brisbane today, a high of 16. New South Wales, it's looking like a fine and mostly sunny day in New South Wales today as we move a little further south on the weather map, but heavy showers are continuing, I can tell you, east of the Divide, right down to Victoria. Let's jump down there. We'll go back to Sydney. In Victoria, partly cloudy with isolated showers south of the ranges, dry and mostly sunny elsewhere. Melbourne looking at a high of 15 today. Warrnambool 16, Launceston -3, warming up to 14, 15 the high in Hobart. Going around to South Australia, a mostly dry day, potentially a shower today around Kangaroo Island. 15 degrees the forecast high in Adelaide, 15 in Renmark as well. And in WA, wet weather is settling in over the southwest, 17 degrees, the high in Perth today, and in Fremantle, 15 in Albany. And one last look at the national weather forecast for you using our Indigenous place names here at Channel 10 as we mark NAIDOC Week. And Gadigal, Sydney, there's the forecast for you, 18 degrees, the rain continuing. Meanjin, Brisbane, 16 as I said. Gimoy, Cairns, 23 degrees. Nambri, Ngunnawal, Canberra, going for a high of 13. Naarm, Melbourne, 15. Tandanya, which is Adelaide, 15 degrees, as I said, partly cloudy. Boorloo, Perth, 17 in that shower. Rubibi, which is Broome, 26 degrees and mostly sunny. And Garamilla, 27 degrees. Darwin, a fine looking day. And wherever you are right around Australia, strap yourselves in, get comfy. Studio 10 is here to keep you company starting right now.